The neighborhood looked peaceful from the outside. Clean houses, quiet streets, green lawns, and friendly neighbors waving at each other. Anyone driving through would think it was the kind of place where nothing bad could ever happen. But inside this pretty neighborhood lived a woman who destroyed peace like a storm. Her name was Karen. Everyone knew her. Everyone feared her. And everyone tried to stay far away from her. Karen was the head of the HOA, something she repeated every 5 minutes as if it was a royal title. She walked around with a big clipboard, a pen, and a face that always looked angry at the world. She moved through the streets like a police officer searching for criminals. She checked lawns, counted garbage bins, stared at fences, and even measured mailbox heights. No one had seen someone take HOA rules so seriously. But Karen didn't just follow rules, she used them as weapons. If someone forgot to mow their lawn, she sent a warning letter. If a child left a bicycle outside for 10 minutes, she took a picture and emailed it to the parents. If someone had guests over for a barbecue, she claimed it was a noise violation even if it was silent. The neighbors whispered stories about her like she was a legend or a nightmare. Don't leave anything outside, Karen might report you. Close your curtains, she watches from her window. Don't talk back, she will fine you. No one dared to fight her. Not because she had real power, but because she loved trouble. She enjoyed arguments. She enjoyed making people suffer with rules. And she enjoyed being feared. But there was one house she disliked the most. It was the house on Maple Drive, the blue one with a small garden and white curtains. A married couple lived there, quiet, polite, and peaceful. The husband always smiled at neighbors. The wife always greeted everyone softly. They kept to themselves, never caused noise, never broke rules, and never fought with anyone. And maybe that was the reason Karen hated them. She could not stand people who didn't fear her. She could not stand people who didn't give her attention. She wanted everyone to feel her presence. But that couple, they didn't react to her at all. They didn't run when she passed by. They didn't panic when she inspected their yard. They didn't even look nervous when she glared at them from across the street. To Karen, that was disrespect. One summer morning, Karen stepped out of her house wearing her usual outfit, a bright vest, sunglasses, and her large clipboard. She looked like she was ready for war. She scanned the neighborhood and saw the couple's wife trimming a small plant in her garden. The woman looked calm, peaceful, focused on her work. Karen narrowed her eyes. How dare she enjoy her morning without my permission, Karen muttered to herself. She marched across the street with loud steps. The wife didn't look up, she kept trimming her plant slowly, her hands steady. Karen stopped right in front of her. You know this plant is too close to the sidewalk, she said sharply. The wife looked up gently. It is exactly where it was last year. Yes, Karen snapped, and last year I let it go. But now it is a violation. The wife blinked once. She didn't argue. She didn't panic. She simply said, okay. I will trim it. Karen waited, maybe expecting fear or anger. But she got nothing. The wife just nodded and went back to trimming. Karen stood there for a moment, confused, insulted, and annoyed. Then she walked away, muttering something about people not respecting the HOA queen. From inside the house, the husband had watched the whole scene. He knew Karen was difficult. He knew she enjoyed bothering people. But he also knew his wife was not someone who reacted easily. She had a calmness that disarmed people. Even Karen. But that calmness didn't stop Karen. It made her angrier. Within the next week, Karen started sending letters to the couple. Every morning, the husband found a new white envelope taped to their door. Violation, lawn too long. Violation, car parked too close to driveway edge. Violation, curtains not uniform color. Violation, garden stone too large. 4 violations in 1 week. The husband tried to stay positive. We can fix these, he said. Let's not stress. But Karen wanted more. One night, around 10 p.m., The couple was watching a movie when someone started banging loudly on their front door. They were startled, it was too late for visitors. The husband opened the door and found Karen standing there with her clipboard. "You are making too much noise," she said coldly. The husband looked confused. "The movie is low volume. You can barely hear it." "The walls in this neighborhood are thick," Karen replied. "So if I hear something, it means you're too loud." The wife stepped forward. "We can lower it more." Karen stared at her. For a second, the wife's calm eyes made Karen uncomfortable. She stepped back. "Good," Karen said, then turned sharply and walked away. The husband closed the door, shaking his head. "She's getting worse." The wife didn't respond. She simply walked back to the sofa and sat quietly. Her calmness was strange tonight. She wasn't worried, but she wasn't relaxed either. It was like she knew something the husband didn't. The next morning, Karen's behavior escalated. As the husband drove to work, he noticed Karen standing by the corner, writing something in her clipboard. But she wasn't looking at yards or houses this time. She was staring directly at their house. Watching every window. Every inch of their yard. Every move the wife made. When he reached the end of the street, he looked in the rearview mirror and saw Karen still staring. Not at the street. Not at the road. At their house. Only their house. Something felt off. Karen had always been strict, irritating, and overly controlling. But this was different. This felt personal. The husband tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, but it followed him the entire day. Meanwhile, back in the neighborhood, Karen continued her rounds. She knocked on doors, shouted about rule violations, and scared neighbors. But her eyes kept drifting back to the couple's house like a magnet. She didn't know why she disliked them so much. She just felt a burning irritation whenever she saw them. Maybe she hated how calm the wife looked. Maybe she hated that the couple never argued with her. Maybe she hated that they didn't treat her like a queen. All Karen knew was this. She wanted control, and she wanted them to fear her. But there was something else she didn't know. A secret sitting right in front of her. A truth that would change her life. Something about the wife. Something Karen could never imagine. And the moment she found out, her world would collapse. But for now, she continued her rounds, bragging about her power, completely unaware that she was walking into her biggest mistake. Because the woman she was trying to destroy was not just another neighbor. She was someone with far more power than Karen ever had. Someone who could end Karen's reign with a single sentence. And the time for that sentence was coming soon. The next few days in the neighborhood felt normal for everyone except the couple on Maple Drive. For them, life was slowly becoming a quiet battlefield. And the enemy was someone who smiled politely in public but carried poison in her heart, Karen. Karen's obsession did not start big. Like all storms, it began with small wins. The husband noticed the first sign on a Tuesday morning. He stepped outside to pick up the mail and almost tripped over something on the porch. A fresh white envelope. Not a normal letter. Not a bill. A violation notice. He sighed. Another one. He opened it and read the words. Your grass height is 0.75 inches above HOA standard. He looked at his yard. It was perfectly trimmed. Not even the pickiest gardener would find a problem. Karen had written it just to annoy them. When he went inside, the wife was placing fresh flowers in a vase. He handed her the letter. She read it, smiled calmly, and said, "It will be okay." But the husband could see something in her eyes, something quiet, controlled, but sharp. She wasn't scared. She wasn't angry. It was like she was watching a small child throw tantrums. Karen, however, felt like she was on a mission. She watched the couple from her window every morning. She timed how long the husband's car stayed in the driveway. She counted how many times the wife watered her plants. She even wrote down when they opened and closed their curtains. Karen believed this was called HOA monitoring. The rest of the world would call it spying. On Friday afternoon, the husband returned from work to find Karen standing in the couple's front yard. She was taking pictures of their mailbox. Click. 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 He stepped out of his car slowly. Karen, why are you photographing my mailbox? Karen didn't look at him. Your mailbox is 2 centimeters lower than the proper height. The husband blinked. 2 centimeters? That's smaller than a coin. Rules are rules, Karen snapped. This is a violation. He opened his mouth to argue, but something held him back. Maybe the realization that Karen enjoyed this. That she wanted anger. She wanted a fight. She wanted the feeling of control. So he simply said, okay. That one word made Karen's face twist with irritation. She wanted drama. She didn't get it. She marched away quickly, muttering something about people who don't respect authority. Inside the house, the wife listened quietly as the husband explained what happened. That woman is impossible, he said. The wife nodded. She is trying to provoke us. What should we do? Nothing yet, she said softly. Her voice was calm, but her words had weight, like she had already planned the ending of this story. That night, something strange happened. While the couple ate dinner, they heard a faint clicking sound outside. Like someone tapping something. The husband got up, peeked through the curtains, and froze. Karen was in their yard again. This time, she was kneeling near the side of the house, measuring the width of the walkway with a tape measure. The husband felt anger rising in his chest. He stepped outside. Karen, it's dinner time. What are you doing? Karen looked up with a smug smile. Measuring your walkway. It seems off by 1.5 inches. Karen, please stop coming into our yard without permission. Karen stood up straight. I am the HOA president. I can inspect any property at any time. That's not how it works, the husband said. Karen narrowed her eyes. Don't teach me the rules. I wrote half of them. Before the husband could answer, the wife stepped outside. And the entire mood changed. She stood there, calm and silent, her presence steady like a wall. Karen opened her mouth to start another threat, but the wife simply looked at her. One quiet, direct look. Karen stopped speaking. It was the same way a strict teacher might look at a troublesome child. A look that said, I see what you're doing. And I am not impressed. Karen didn't like that look. I will be sending another violation notice, she said quickly, then turned and walked away. When she left, the wife sighed softly. She is becoming more unstable. The husband nodded. It's like she has nothing else to do. But the truth was deeper. Karen did have something else to do. She had a personal mission now. A strange obsession with the couple, especially the wife. She didn't understand why the wife bothered her so much. Maybe it was how calm she always seemed. Maybe it was how quietly she spoke. Maybe it was how she never showed fear, no matter how many times Karen tried to intimidate her. Karen hated people she couldn't scare. And the wife didn't even try to fight her. That made it worse. On Sunday morning, Karen escalated again. The neighborhood was quiet, as everyone enjoyed their weekend. But not Karen. She was already up at 6 a.m., holding her camera like a weapon. She walked straight to the couple's driveway and started taking photos of their car. The husband rushed outside. Karen! Why are you photographing my car? It has a water stain on it, Karen said. A water stain? Yes. It lowers the neighborhood's appearance. This is a violation. A neighbor across the street watched the scene, shook his head, and whispered to his wife, Karen has lost her mind. Karen heard him but ignored it. Her focus was only on the couple. When the husband went back inside, frustrated and exhausted, the wife was sitting at the dining table, reading a book. She looked up and asked gently, Is she still outside? Yes. She took pictures of our car today. The wife closed her book slowly. I see. Her tone was calm, too calm. Like she was waiting for something. Like she knew Karen's actions were leading to a place Karen would regret. But Karen didn't know that. She thought she was winning. By evening, she delivered 3 more violation slips to the couple's door. She pressed them so hard to the wood that they almost tore. The husband stared at the stack of papers and said, "She's targeting us now." The wife nodded. Yes. She has crossed the line. What should we do? We wait, the wife answered. Karen will go too far. And then everything will turn. The husband didn't fully understand, but he trusted her. Outside the window, Karen was standing in her yard, arms crossed, staring at the couple's house with a strange expression, half anger, half triumph. She believed she had full control. She believed the couple was helpless. She believed her power was unstoppable. But she had no idea how wrong she was. She had no idea who she was provoking. And she had no idea how close she was to ruining her own life. Because soon, very soon, Karen would cross a line she could never uncross. And that moment would change everything. Karen was restless. Every morning, she woke up earlier and earlier. She no longer made coffee. She no longer checked the weather. She no longer even brushed her hair properly. Her first thought each day was the couple. She would rush to her window, pull her curtains just 1 inch open, and watch their house like a hunter watching prey. Something inside her had changed. She wasn't just annoyed anymore. She was obsessed. It was as if she was waiting for the couple to do something wrong, something big, something she could use to finally win. And then, one quiet afternoon, Karen saw something that lit a fire in her twisted imagination. The wife was outside, unloading boxes from her car. Not 1 box. Not 2 boxes. A whole stack. Brown cardboard boxes marked with labels Karen couldn't read from far away. Karen froze. Then her lips slowly curled into a smile. There, she whispered to herself. Finally. She grabbed her phone and ran outside like she had discovered buried treasure. She didn't even try to hide her joy. She stood across the street, zoomed in with her phone camera, and clicked dozens of photos as the wife calmly lifted each box and placed it near the garage. Click. 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 The wife noticed her but didn't say anything. She simply continued working. That made Karen even angrier. She marched toward the couple's driveway so fast her breath got heavy. What's inside these boxes? She barked. The wife looked at her with calm eyes. House items. That's not specific, Karen snapped. It doesn't need to be, the wife replied politely. Karen's jaw tightened. She hated the wife's calm tone more than anything else. To Karen, calmness was disrespect. Calmness was a challenge. Calmness meant the wife didn't fear her. And Karen needed fear. That evening, the husband returned from work and found Karen pacing outside their house again, staring at the boxes like she was solving a crime. The husband sighed. Is everything okay, Karen? Karen turned sharply. Do you know what your wife is doing? The husband looked confused. She's unpacking. She's running a business. Karen interrupted loudly. Right here. From inside this house. That is totally illegal. The husband blinked. Karen, they're just household items. Karen smirked like a villain in a cheap movie. Then why were the boxes unlabeled? Why were they delivered in the afternoon when no one was home? Why were they heavy? Boxes are usually heavy, the husband said tiredly. Karen pointed at him dramatically. That is exactly what someone running a secret business would say. The husband looked at her with disbelief. You're exaggerating. Karen's voice rose. I am the HOA president. I know when something is wrong. And this, she pointed wildly at the boxes, this is very wrong. The husband shook his head and guided the boxes inside, ignoring her. The wife stood by the doorway, watching quietly. Karen's face twisted with frustration. She stormed away, muttering, "You think I'm stupid? I'll show you." And that was the moment she crossed the line. She went home, slammed her door, grabbed her phone, and dialed the police. When the operator answered, Karen spoke in a perfect fake worried voice. "Hello, I'd like to report a crime." "What kind of crime, ma'am?" "My neighbor, she's running an illegal business. Large shipment boxes. Suspicious movements. It looks dangerous." Her voice shook with fake fear. She added extra details. Extra lies. Extra drama. Karen knew exactly what she was doing. And she loved every second of it. 30 minutes later, a police car pulled into Maple Drive. The husband was in the kitchen getting water when he heard the sound. He walked to the window, saw the cruiser, and his stomach dropped. The wife was in the living room. She stood up slowly, walked to the window, and looked outside. Her expression did not change. No fear. No panic. Just understanding. "She finally did it," the wife whispered. The husband turned to her. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, there was a loud knock at the door. Knock. 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 The husband opened the door to two officers. "Good evening," one said. "We received a report about suspicious packages and possible unlicensed business activity at this address." Karen stood across the street with her phone out like she was filming a TV episode. Her smile was huge. Too huge. The husband felt heat rising in his face. "This is a misunderstanding. The boxes are just household items." "May we see them?" the officer asked politely. The husband stepped back. "Of course." The police entered the garage, checked the boxes, opened a few, and found exactly what the wife said: simple household items. Clothes, old books, kitchenware, and decorations. The second officer said calmly, "Everything looks normal." Karen's smile vanished. "What?" she shouted from across the street. She ran over, waving her hands. "You're not checking right. You don't understand, she is hiding something." The officers looked at her. "Ma'am, please step back." Karen didn't. "She's lying. She's always lying. I know it. I know it." The wife finally spoke. "Karen, please calm down." That sentence broke Karen. "Don't tell me to calm down." Karen screamed. "You think you're so perfect. You think you can hide things from me. Well, you can't. I run this neighborhood." The officers exchanged looks. The husband said softly, "Karen, go home. Please." Karen ignored him. She pointed at the wife dramatically. "Arrest her. She's dangerous." The wife looked at the officers. "You have seen everything. We have nothing else to show." The officers nodded. "We will file a report noting that the call was a false alarm." Karen's face turned red. "False alarm? No. You don't understand." "Ma'am," one officer said firmly, "if you continue, we may need to issue you a warning for making false reports." Karen stepped back like she'd been slapped. A warning? Her? The queen of the HOA? Her lips trembled with rage as the officers left. The cruiser drove away. The street fell silent. Karen stared at the couple, breathing hard. "You're going to regret this," she hissed. "Both of you." The wife looked at her calmly. "Karen, you're hurting yourself." That sentence made Karen's eyes widen, as if the wife had spoken a secret Karen didn't want to hear. Later that night, the husband asked his wife, "Why did you say she's hurting herself?" The wife looked out the window into the darkness. "Because she doesn't understand what she's doing. But soon, she will." "What do you mean?" the husband asked. The wife didn't answer. She simply closed the curtains and said softly, "Karen thinks she has power. She doesn't know she is walking into her own trap. And outside, across the street, Karen sat in her living room surrounded by HOA papers, police brochures, and photos of the couple. Her obsession had become something else. Something darker. Something that would push her into a disaster she could never escape. Karen didn't sleep after the police incident. She sat in her living room with all the lights off, staring at the photo she had printed of the couple, photos she had taken secretly over the weeks. The wife standing in the garden. The husband taking out the trash. The boxes near the garage. Karen had spread them across her coffee table like pieces of a puzzle. But there was no puzzle. Just a storm building inside her mind. She thinks she's smarter than me, Karen whispered to herself. She thinks she can trick me. Her voice shook with anger. She paced back and forth, muttering under her breath. Every time she remembered the wife's calm eyes, her rage grew deeper. She hated those eyes. Eyes that didn't fear her. Eyes that almost looked disappointed in her. That night, Karen made a decision that pushed her far past the line of normal behavior. She decided to watch them. Not from her window. Not from across the street. But up close. At 5 a.m. the next morning, while the sky was still dark, Karen quietly left her house. She wore black clothes. She carried her phone, her flashlight, and a notebook where she recorded her observations. She walked silently down Maple Drive and stopped right in front of the couple's house. No one was awake. The air was cold. The street was empty. Karen stepped onto their lawn. Her heart beat fast, but her mind whispered, "I have the right. I'm HOA." She crouched near their flowers, touching the soil to see if it was too wet. She checked their windows to see if any curtains were uneven. She even pressed her ear to the garage door, trying to hear something inside. She heard nothing. And the silence only made her more paranoid. "What are you hiding?" she whispered angrily. She moved to the side of the house and took more photos of the air conditioner, the hose, the garden wall, even the small decorative lantern hanging from the wife's favorite plant. Then she froze. A light turned on inside the house. Karen ducked behind a bush, her heart pounding like a drum. She held her breath and watched the front door. For a moment, she almost felt scared. But the light turned off again. The house remained still. Karen exhaled with relief and pulled out her notebook. 5:22 a.m. Suspicious movement inside. 5:24 a.m. No signs of morning routine. 5:25 a.m. Unclear activities. She wrote the words like she was documenting a crime scene. When the husband left the house at 7 a.m. for work, he didn't notice anything strange. He waved at a neighbor, got into his car, and drove away. But the wife saw it. She opened the front door and saw footprints on the wet grass, footprints that led straight toward her garden and around the side of the house. The wife stared at them quietly. She didn't look angry. She didn't panic. She simply observed. Her expression was soft but serious. Like someone who had seen this coming. When the husband called during his lunch break, she simply said, "She has started entering our property." The husband was shocked. "Karen was here? In our yard?" "Yes," the wife said. "Early morning. We need to confront her." "No," the wife replied gently. "Let her continue. She will expose herself." The husband didn't fully understand. "But she's getting dangerous." "She's getting desperate," the wife corrected. "There's a difference." The wife's voice was calm, but her eyes had a sharpness now, like someone watching the final moves of a chess game. Meanwhile, Karen's behavior reached new levels. She began knocking on neighbors' doors, warning them about the dangerous couple. Most neighbors shut their doors politely, trying not to get involved. But Karen kept talking. "They're hiding illegal things," she told Mrs. Turner. "They have suspicious activity every night," she told Mr. Hansen. "They are dangerous for children," she told the Johnson family. She exaggerated. She lied. She added drama. Each lie bigger than the last. The neighbors listened with confused, uncomfortable expressions.
Everyone knew about Karen. Everyone knew she exaggerated everything.
But this time, she seemed unstable. Her eyes were wild. Her hair looked unbrushed.
She spoke too fast. She lost her breath. Something was wrong with her. But Karen didn't notice their discomfort.
She was too focused on her mission. Everyone will thank me when I expose them, she told herself proudly. That evening, as the sun set, Karen decided to follow the wife. The wife usually took a short evening walk around the block. She walked slowly, enjoying the air, observing flowers, greeting neighbors with a warm smile. Tonight, Karen walked 20 steps behind her, pretending to check her phone.
The wife noticed. She didn't turn around. She didn't react.
But she walked a little slower, letting Karen get just close enough. At the corner of the street, the wife paused and looked up at the sky as if admiring the clouds.
Karen stopped too, pretending to tie her shoe.
Then, without turning, the wife spoke. Her voice was soft, gentle, but powerful.
Karen, why are you following me?
Karen froze. Her breath caught in her throat.
I'm just taking a walk. Karen stammered.
Behind me, the wife asked calmly.
Karen felt heat rising in her face. I have the right to walk.
Of course, the wife said softly. But why do you look so scared?
Karen's eyes widened. I'm not scared.
The wife turned around slowly. Her calm eyes met Karen's panicked ones. And for a moment, Karen stepped back.
Just one small step. But it revealed everything. The wife spoke gently. Karen, this is not healthy for you. Karen almost screamed. Stop talking to me like that. Like I'm a child. Like I'm wrong.
The wife remained silent.
Karen pointed her finger shakily. You think you're better than me. You think you can judge me. But you can't. You're nothing.
The wife looked at her, not with anger, but with pity.
And that made Karen explode. You want war? Karen shouted. I'll give you war. Neighbors peeked from their windows. The wife simply said, Karen, please go home. Karen stormed off, shaking with rage.
She didn't walk home, she marched like a soldier preparing for battle.
And that night, Karen went further than she had ever gone.
She wrote a massive complaint letter to the HOA board, filled with lies, fake accusations, and dramatic descriptions of illegal activities.
She printed it. Signed it. Filed it.
Then she grabbed her phone and started calling more people, HOA members, neighborhood watch leaders, even a friend who worked at the city office. She's dangerous, Karen whispered into the phone.
I'm telling you. Something is very wrong about her.
But the darkest decision came last. At 11:48 p.m., Karen stood at her window, staring at the couple's house. Her hands trembled as she made the call.
Not the police this time. Someone higher. Someone more official. Someone who would listen to her lies. This is an emergency, Karen said in a shaking voice. I need to report something serious about my neighbors. She didn't know it yet. But that call, that final action,
was the moment she destroyed herself? Because she had no idea who she was dealing with.
And very soon, she would find out.
The next morning arrived heavy and quiet, almost too quiet for Maple Drive. The neighborhood felt different, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen.
Karen, however, woke up full of confidence. Last night she had made the big call, the one she believed would finally expose the couple.
She felt powerful again, as if she had rebuilt her throne after it began to crack. She looked in the mirror, brushed her hair roughly, and told her reflection.
I'm right. And soon, everyone will know. But while Karen felt victorious, the couple's house remained calm. Peaceful. Almost untouched by Karen's chaos. The wife prepared breakfast like normal.
The husband watered the plants. They moved through the morning like nothing strange had happened.
That calmness annoyed Karen even more.
She watched them from her window, grinding her teeth.
How can they be so relaxed?
Something big is coming for them. Later that afternoon, Karen heard the sound of a van stopping outside, one with a government emblem on the side. A man stepped out holding a stack of official envelopes.
Karen's heart leaped with excitement.
This must be about them, she whispered.
Finally.
She rushed out, pretending she just happened to be walking by. She smiled widely at the delivery man.
Good afternoon, Karen said in her sugary fake voice. Are those notices for that house?
She pointed to the couple's home.
The man looked at his clipboard. No, ma'am. This one is for you. Karen blinked. For me? Yes, ma'am, the man said.
He handed her a thick white envelope stamped with a symbol she recognized.
County Court Division.
Her heart skipped a beat. She forced a smile and mumbled, "Thank you," but her fingers trembled as she took the envelope.
Court? Why court? Surely this was about one of her HOA reports. Surely the county was asking her for important information.
She marched back into her house and shut the door hard. Inside, she stared at the envelope for a full minute before opening it. She tore it open dramatically, expecting something that proved her importance.
But the moment she read the first line, color drained from her face. You are being summoned to appear in court for accusations of false reporting, harassment, and misuse of HOA authority. Karen's breath froze in her chest. Her eyes widened as she read the words again, and again, and again. No. Impossible. This had to be a mistake. She flipped the page desperately. The charges are based on multiple official complaints and documented incidents. Incidents? Complaints? Against her?
Her hands shook as she held the letter. Sweat gathered on her forehead.
She felt dizzy.
This can't be happening, she whispered. She dropped the paper and grabbed her phone with shaking fingers.
She called the HOA board president, Mr. Gerald, but he didn't answer.
She called 2 more board members.
No response. Her chest tightened. She rushed to her computer and opened her email.
There, waiting in her inbox, was a message with the subject:
Urgent HOA board review, your conduct under investigation.
Karen felt like the ground disappeared under her feet. Her face twisted with panic.
Who did this? Who? There was only one answer in her mind. The wife. She complained about me. Karen shouted. She's trying to destroy me. She must have gone behind my back. Her voice trembled between anger and fear.
For the first time, Karen felt vulnerable.
Meanwhile, across the street, the couple sat calmly at their dining table, sipping tea.
Through the window, the husband noticed Karen running around her living room in a panic.
She got the letter, he said quietly. The wife nodded, not surprised. It was only a matter of time.
The husband leaned closer.
Do you think she'll stop now? The wife looked down at her tea. Karen doesn't know how to stop. People like her don't stop when they're scared. They stop when someone makes them.
Her voice was soft but carried a strange sense of certainty. The husband stared at her.
You sound like you know exactly how this will end. The wife didn't answer.
She only smiled slightly and looked toward Karen's house. Across the street, Karen had entered full meltdown mode. She scanned every page of the court letter, searching for loopholes, mistakes, anything that could save her. But the letter was clear. She had to appear in court. She had to explain her behavior. She had to face consequences. Her breathing became sharp and uneven.
No, this isn't fair. She grabbed her HOA binder and slammed it onto the table. Papers flew everywhere.
She opened her laptop and started typing a long, frantic email to the county office, claiming she was innocent, claiming she was being targeted, claiming the couple was dangerous criminals. But before she could send it, she paused.
Her hands stopped on the keyboard. A thought hit her like lightning. What if the judge believes them? What if the judge hates me? What if the judge thinks I'm crazy? Her fingers trembled. What if the judge is already on their side? She swallowed hard. For the first time, she felt small. Very small. But Karen's fear didn't last long. It quickly turned into something else. Pure denial. No. I'm not the bad one here, she told herself loudly. I'm the victim. They're the ones causing problems. She jumped from her chair and began collecting every photo, every note, every recording she ever took of the couple. She planned to build a giant folder of evidence to prove her innocence. She even labeled it "The Truth About the Dangerous Neighbors." Inside, she stuffed photos of boxes, measurements of walkways, screenshots of noise complaints, her long, dramatic complaint letters, random pictures that made no sense, and a page titled "Suspicious Woman Behavior." The folder was thick, messy, and useless. But Karen held it like a treasure. "This will save me," she whispered. "The judge will understand." She didn't know the truth. No one had warned her. But she had just prepared evidence. For the very person she had tried to ruin. The day continued to crumble around her. HOA board members started sending her cold, short messages. "We need to talk. This is serious. Your position is suspended for now." Suspended. Her greatest fear. Her identity began cracking. "No, no, no. I am the HOA," she yelled inside her empty house. Her voice echoed back at her. She sank into a chair, shaking, whispering to herself over and over, "They can't do this, they can't." But deep inside, a tiny voice whispered the truth. "This is your fault." Karen refused to listen. She grabbed her keys. "I need to talk to someone," she said out loud. "Anyone." She stormed out of the house and crossed the street, heading directly toward the couple's home. She rang their doorbell repeatedly. Ding dong. Ding dong. Ding dong. The husband opened the door slowly. "Karen, what are you doing?" Karen shoved the court letter in his face. "This. What is this? What did you two do?" The husband blinked in confusion. "Karen, we didn't do anything." "You liar," she screamed. "Your wife complained about me. She told the court lies. She's trying to ruin my life." The husband stepped back. "Karen, you need to calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down." The wife then stepped into the doorway. The moment Karen saw her, she froze. Her voice cracked. You did this." The wife looked at her with the same calm eyes as always and said only one thing. "Karen, everything happening now is the result of your own choices." Karen's mouth fell open. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her legs weakened. Her breathing stopped. Then she stumbled backward, clutching her papers like a shield. This isn't over," she whispered shakily. But something in her voice sounded broken. She turned and walked home slowly. Not with pride. Not with confidence. But with fear. Real fear. Because she knew she was heading toward something she could not escape. And she had no idea that in the courtroom waiting for her would be the woman she just screamed at. The woman she tried to destroy. The woman who would decide her fate. The morning of the court hearing arrived like a storm waiting to break. Karen barely slept. She spent the whole night pacing her living room, rehearsing her excuses, rewriting her story, and convincing herself she was the victim. By sunrise, she looked like a person who had battled her own mind and lost. Still, she forced herself to stand tall. She put on her stiff navy blue blazer, the one she believed made her look official. She carried her giant folder of evidence. And she practiced her confident face in the mirror. "You are right. You always have been. Judges respect authority, she whispered to herself. They will take your side. But the words no longer convinced her. Her voice cracked slightly at the end. She grabbed her keys, stepped outside, and stopped for a moment when she saw the couple's house across the street. The husband was watering the plants. The wife was nowhere in sight. Karen glared at the house. They think they won, she muttered. They think today will ruin me. Her hands tightened around her folder. They don't know who they're dealing with. At the courthouse, the lobby was quiet, too quiet. The fluorescent lights hummed softly. The echo of footsteps bounced through the hallway like slow, distant drums. Karen approached the security desk with exaggerated confidence. I'm here for the 10 a.m. hearing, she said, lifting her chin. The guard checked his list. Name? Karen M. Brooks, she answered proudly. He nodded. Courtroom 3. Down the hall, first door on your left. Karen marched forward, heels clicking sharply. Each click echoed like a countdown. Her heart pounded harder with every step. She reached the courtroom door. It was tall, wooden, and carried a plaque that read, Courtroom 3, Honorable Judge R. Hale. Karen frowned. Judge Hale? She never heard that name. Usually, she knew the judges in the county. She had filed enough HOA-related cases to become familiar with them. She paused, confused. But before she could think too much, the door opened from inside and a clerk said, Mrs. Brooks? You may enter. Karen straightened her blazer, forced a smile, and walked in. Inside, the room felt colder than she expected. Rows of wooden benches stood empty except for two people in the back. The air smelled like old paper and tension. Karen selected a seat in the front row and placed her giant folder beside her like a shield. She looked around the courtroom, noticing something strange. The bench where the judge sat was hidden behind a large curtain. The judge had not yet entered. Karen tapped her fingers nervously. A moment later, the door behind the judge's bench opened and the bailiff stepped in. All rise for the honorable judge. Karen stood quickly. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. The curtain rustled. A shadow appeared. Someone stepped out. Karen's smile froze, then slowly collapsed. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes widened so much they almost hurt. Standing at the judge's bench. Wearing a black robe. Calm. Silent. Powerful. Was the woman she had been harassing for months. The wife. Judge R. Hale. The same quiet, harmless neighbor she believed she could crush. The same woman she had screamed at 2 days earlier. The same woman she had reported to the police. Karen's knees weakened. She whispered, No, no, no. Not her. It can't be her. But it was. The wife, now Judge Hale, took her seat with graceful authority. She looked down at Karen once, slowly, without anger, without emotion. Just calm power. The kind of calm that crushes mountains. Karen stumbled back into her chair, her folder slipping from her hands and spilling papers all over the floor. Her breathing turned shaky. Her vision blurred. Her worst nightmare had taken the judge's seat. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Hale looked at the clerk. Please begin. The clerk nodded. Case number 34-921, Karen Brooks, charged with false reporting, harassment, and HOA abuse of authority. Each word hit Karen like a punch to the stomach. She tried to speak. Your Honor, you know me. Judge Hale's voice cut through the room like ice. In this courtroom, Mrs. Brooks, you will address me as Your Honor. Nothing else. The words were gentle but sharp enough to silence Karen instantly. Judge Hale continued, and yes. I do know you. I know exactly who you are. Karen swallowed hard. The husband, sitting quietly in the back, watched everything. He looked calm, almost peaceful. Like someone who already knew how this would end. Judge Hale turned a page on her desk. Mrs. Brooks, she said. According to your HOA reports, you claim my household was guilty of operating an illegal business, noise violations, landscaping violations, suspicious activity, and even dangerous neighbor behavior.
Her tone was steady, but the room shook with the weight of her words.
Karen's voice trembled. Your Honor, I was only doing my duty. Judge Hale lifted a hand. Karen went silent immediately. Your duty, Judge Hale repeated. Let's talk about that. She nodded to the bailiff. The lights dimmed slightly.
A screen lowered behind the judge.
Judge Hale pressed a small remote. A video began playing. A grainy clip of Karen, secretly following the wife's car. Another clip, Karen taking pictures of the couple's house at midnight.
Another, Karen shouting at a neighbor about constant danger.
Then, Karen standing in her yard yelling, I'll make sure she regrets living here. Karen gasped. Where did you get that?
Judge Hale looked at her calmly.
Your neighbors submitted them. Many of them. You didn't just terrorize one house, Mrs. Brooks. You terrorized the whole street.
Karen felt the world spin.
I was protecting them, she cried.
They were scared of her.
Judge Hale raised an eyebrow. Were they?
Or were they scared of you? Karen collapsed into her chair, shaking.
Judge Hale continued. Next, she said. Your police report claims my household was involved in illegal activity.
She held up the police's written statement.
This claim was proven false.
The officers even noted you seemed invested in creating trouble.
Karen's voice cracked. Your Honor, please.
I didn't know you were.
A judge, the wife finished calmly. Would your behavior be acceptable if I wasn't a judge? Karen froze. She had no answer.
Judge Hale leaned forward slightly.
Mrs. Brooks, your behavior wasn't about safety. It wasn't about the rules. It was about power. You enjoyed controlling people. Karen's eyes filled with tears. No. I didn't.
Her voice shrank to a whisper.
I was just trying to matter.
Judge Hale sighed softly, a quiet, almost sad sigh.
Everyone matters, Mrs. Brooks. But you chose to matter by hurting others. Karen looked down at her hands.
They shook uncontrollably.
The courtroom went silent again. Judge Hale gently closed the police report, then folded her hands. Mrs. Brooks, she said, before I give my final decision, do you have anything truthful you want to say? Truthful. Not defensive. Not angry. Not dramatic. Truthful. Karen swallowed. She opened her mouth. For the first time, no words came out. She knew the truth. She knew she was guilty.
And the judge she had tried to destroy was now the one holding her fate in her hands.
Judge Hale finally spoke. Very well.
Then the court will decide. Karen squeezed her eyes shut, bracing herself.
Judge Hale lifted the sentencing document. The next words would change Karen's life forever. But we'll get to that. The courtroom felt like it was holding its breath.
Karen stood in the center, her hands shaking, her eyes red and swollen. Her confidence had drained away, leaving only fear, guilt, and the crushing weight of reality.
Judge Hale, the wife she had stalked, harassed, and reported, looked down at her with calm authority.
Mrs. Brooks, she said, her voice steady, this court will now deliver judgment.
Karen's heart raced so hard she thought it might burst. Her knees trembled.
For a moment, she felt like a child waiting for punishment after being caught doing something terrible.
But this wasn't a parent.
This was a judge. A judge she had tried to ruin. And that judge now held her future.
Judge Hale opened the sentencing document. Mrs. Brooks, the evidence shows a long pattern of harassment, false reporting, and abuse of HOA power. You have created fear, chaos, and distress in your community.
Her words echoed across the wooden benches. You claimed your actions were for safety, the judge continued. But in truth, they were for control.
Karen let out a soft sob.
She covered her mouth with her shaking hand.
I didn't mean.
Her voice cracked. I wasn't trying to be, I just wanted people to follow the rules. Judge Hale looked at her with a calm expression, neither cruel nor sympathetic. Just truthful. Rules don't give you the right to destroy people, Mrs. Brooks. The husband in the back watched quietly. He felt no joy, no revenge. Just closure.
Judge Hale continued reading. This court has considered your history, your behavior, and your lack of accountability. And therefore.
Karen squeezed her eyes shut.
Please not jail. Please not jail. Please not jail. You are sentenced to the following penalties. Karen opened her eyes slowly.
Her voice trembled.
Your Honor. Judge Hale held up her hand. Silence fell again. First, she said, you are removed from your HOA position effective immediately. You will no longer hold any authority in the community. Karen felt something inside her collapse. Her HOA position wasn't just a role.
It was her identity. Her purpose. Her source of power.
Gone. Just like that. She stumbled slightly, grabbing the edge of the table for balance.
Judge Hale continued, second, you will pay a fine for false reporting, harassment, and misuse of HOA authority.
Karen swallowed hard. How much? $5,000. Karen gasped. But, Your Honor, I can't, that's too much.
Judge Hale looked directly at her. So were the consequences you forced on others. Karen's chin trembled. She clutched her folder of useless evidence tightly against her chest, as if it could protect her. And third, Judge Hale said, you will perform 50 hours of community service in the same neighborhood you disrupted.
Karen blinked. I have to work, in front of everyone?
Yes, Judge Hale said simply.
The community deserves to see you contribute something positive. Karen shook her head weakly. They'll hate me.
Judge Hale replied softly, they already do, Mrs. Brooks. What matters now is whether you learn. The words stung, but they were true.
Karen had spent years terrorizing the neighborhood.
She had built a tiny kingdom of fear. Losing it felt like losing her whole world. Karen wiped her tears, but more kept falling.
Your Honor, please. I didn't know.
She sounded like a broken record. I didn't know you were a judge. Judge Hale leaned forward.
Would you have treated me differently if you did? The question landed like a knife. Karen froze. Her lips parted. Her breath stopped. She knew the answer. And so did everyone else in the room.
I don't know, she whispered, but her voice held no honesty.
Judge Hale shook her head. That is why you are here today.
There was a long silence. The kind that forces a person to face their own reflection.
Karen looked down at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes.
She realized something she had never admitted before, not even to herself.
She didn't become the HOA leader to help people.
She did it because power made her feel important. And losing that power now made her feel small. Very, very small.
Judge Hale closed the final file. This hearing is complete. Court is adjourned. The bailiff struck the gavel. The sharp sound echoed through the room, sealing Karen's fate. Judge Hale stood up and left through the back door without looking at Karen again. Not out of cruelty. Out of professionalism. Out of restraint. Out of dignity. Things Karen had never shown her.
For a minute, Karen stayed frozen in place.
Her legs felt heavy. Her hands numb.
Her world destroyed. She didn't know whether to run, scream, or fall to the floor. Finally, she dropped her folder. Papers scattered everywhere like pieces of her broken pride. The husband slowly approached her.
He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He didn't mock her.
He just stood beside her and said quietly,
"Now you understand." Karen looked at him with wet, desperate eyes. "I wasn't trying to be evil. I thought I was fixing things."
The husband nodded slowly.
"That's how it starts. You think you're fixing things. But then you forget the people you're hurting." Karen's voice broke. "I have nothing left."
The husband sighed softly.
"Maybe that's where you start learning." Karen looked down at her scattered papers. None of them could save her. None of them ever made sense.
They only made her feel powerful. And now, they were worthless. She knelt down and began collecting them with trembling hands, stuffing them back into the folder, trying to hold together something that was already gone. As she left the courtroom, she passed by Judge Hale's chambers. The door was open slightly. Inside, Judge Hale sat at her desk, removing her robe and setting it aside neatly. Her expression was calm, not triumphant, not angry, just a woman who had done her job.
Karen hesitated.
For a moment, she wanted to walk inside, apologize, beg, explain. But then she remembered the screaming, the stalking, the lies, the power trips, the way she had boasted about ruining people. Her courage vanished. She walked away quietly.
No words. No excuses. No more power.
Outside, the sky had begun to soften with evening light. The husband and wife walked out of the courthouse together.
They didn't look back. They didn't need to. Karen watched them from a distance. For the first time, she didn't feel anger or hate. She felt something new. Something painful. Something strangely cleansing. She felt regret. Real, heavy regret. For the things she had done. For the person she had become. For the life she had wasted on rules and fear. As the couple got into their car, the wife turned her head slightly, just enough to see Karen standing there. Their eyes met. For a second, Karen thought she saw something unexpected. Not revenge. Not triumph. Not pride. But pity. Then the wife looked forward again, and the car drove away, leaving Karen alone in the courthouse parking lot.
A leader without followers.
A judge of no one.
A woman forced to face the truth about herself.
And that was how HOA Karen fell. Not because someone destroyed her,
but because she destroyed herself.
Piece by piece. Choice by choice. Until the truth finally caught up to her. In a courtroom she never expected.
Before a judge she never respected. And in front of a community she never cared for. Her reign was over. Her lesson had begun.